Going on, nation? Today we're going to be hitting some hamstrings, back, and abs. We're going to start off with some deadlifts. This is a warm-up I like to do for my lower back. Like 2 sets of 12 reps per side works pretty well. It's better than having to get on the floor and do those rotations that you guys see me do often. People might look at you weird, but this feels really good on your lower back. Definitely try it out. And then after the quick warm-up there, I do a deadlift warm-up. So 1 set, 12 repetitions, just focusing on getting that sit all the way down, pushing through my hips, pushing through my heels. And then from here, we're going to go right into the deficit deadlift. Now, for the deficit deadlift, I'm standing on a 3.5-inch platform. I'm using 315 pounds. And the goal here on my first set is to get 8 reps. I'm doing 5 sets of this, steadily increasing the weight as I go on. And this video was actually filmed 2 or 3 weeks ago. I just wanted to get the deficit deadlift how-to video out first, and I'll post a link to that in the top right-hand corner. And it's actually kind of funny because if you watch that deficit video, which I released I think last week, the difference in my body is just drastically different. I was feeling kind of small here. I don't know what, I think this was like, that was probably 3 weeks ago, so that's when we were having like non-stop snowstorms. I was having a hard time getting to the gym. My diet was off because I was outside plowing and shoveling 3 hours every other day. And it took its toll on me. And you can really see a difference in the size. But whatever, we won't focus on that. Set 2, 5 repetitions with 365. Really trying to focus on pushing through the hips and pushing through the heels. This was still when I was just starting to work with the deficit deadlift. Since this video has been made, I've been able to get much lower and push through much more through my hips. I feel like in here my butt's still sitting kind of high on these reps, which obviously, starts to pull a bit more on the lower back. I am starting to use my belt a bit more when I'm doing my deadlifts, especially with the high volume stuff. But 405's going up pretty well, really focusing on flexing my lats, squeezing that bar as hard as I can, keep my chin down, keep my core flexed, keep making sure the abs are contracted, pushing my knees out a little bit. And you guys can see from this repetition right here, doing my best to keep the bar as close as possible to my legs, all the way to the top, control the weight on the way down. Now, if you've never done a deficit deadlift before, I don't recommend going on a 3.5-inch platform. I recommend starting with maybe a 1-inch and then working your way up from there as you get better at it. These bars were just way too slippery, so I had to chalk up. Chalk really helps get a nice tight grip on the bar. I usually keep, if your gym doesn't allow chalk, I know a lot of gyms don't, that sock chalk that I had, you can get that at like a rock climbing store. It's a really great alternative to having a bag of chalk and making too big of a mess. This was my 5th set, 455 pounds. Not the best form in the world. I was able to pull the weight all the way up, and I did almost fall over forward right there, so I got lucky. But, it was a good working set for my deficit deadlifts, and I'm really starting to see improvements. I pulled 495 pounds last week on my traditional. Going to go for 510 hopefully next week now that I'm back home from the Arnold. Now we're doing the prone leg curls, and for this exercise, we're going to be doing a superset, and each exercise is going to have 1 drop, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to perform 8 repetitions, and now I just dropped the weight down, so I dropped it about 30 or 40 pounds. Now I'm going to do 8 more repetitions, really focusing on making sure that I'm getting full range of motion on all those repetitions and I'm not letting my feet flare out too much. I'm trying to keep my toes pointed straight the entire time. The superset here is going to be with the seated lat pull-down, and you guys are going to be going back and forth 4 times. So a total of 4 sets, and that's a lot of volume. The goal of this workout and the goal of many of my workouts is to work with a lot of volume to really focus on building muscle. As you guys know from my Muscle Genes report, I talk about, slow twitch versus fast twitch muscle ratios. And for me in particular, I have more slow twitch muscle fiber, so my body responds better to strength and size, growing muscle with more volume. So as you guys can see, I dropped the weight down. I'm doing 8 more repetitions, and I'm really trying to pull that bar to my chest, and I'm trying my best not to use any momentum. A lot of people use momentum on this exercise to bring the bar down, and you're just doing yourself a disservice because you're not really engaging your lats at all when you throw your body back and pull the bar down to your chest. And I decided to do a 3rd drop on this one, and I'm just basically squeezing the bar as hard as I can at the bottom of the movement and then bringing it back up. I was getting some pretty good lat engagement. Sometimes things like this, they would just just spur of the moment kind of exercises that you want to do, so I decided to throw in a second drop. So a quick tip for this exercise, a lot of people do this exercise wrong, and they're doing about 90% momentum and 10% actually working their back. And what happens is, you see people either lean all the way back like this, and the range of motion is about 3 inches, as opposed to this entire length right here. Or you see a lot of this. Go forward, and then back. And you just see this over and over and over again. And don't get me wrong, like, there is a way to do this exercise by doing that motion, but what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to sit up straight, lean forward, still keep your chest up, come back, and then pull with your arms, and then come back forward. And what this is doing is it's working a bit more of your lower back during the exercise. You're not leaning forward to build up power to throw the weight back. You're just leaning forward, keeping a slight bend in your knees, going as far forward as you can, and as you come back, bring your arms in one fluid motion. So you just still make sure that your back is doing the work, your arms are doing the work. So now we're going to get started with this exercise, the seated low row. Again, you're doing 4 sets, and this is going to be a superset again as well. And so you guys just heard me talk about, the different tips that you need to keep in mind when doing this exercise. So if you watch very closely, you can see I'm keeping my core contracted. I'm squeezing everything as hard as possible, and I'm really trying to focus on squeezing my back as I bring this handle to my chest. I'm not just throwing my arms back. I'm trying to go into a system of pulling back my shoulders and then my elbows and then bringing my hands to my chest. And as soon as you finish 8 repetitions, you're going to do a drop. So as you guys can see, I'm using less weight. And when I use less weight, what I like to do is try to really sit up as high as I can. Obviously, with heavier weight, it gets harder to sit up straight. But when you do that drop, I want you guys to really push your butt back and try to lean forward. It's going to feel very different when doing this exercise. And you want to take advantage of that drop and take advantage of that muscle fatigue in your back, and then utilize that light weight to really push and squeeze, rip and tear your back apart. The goal was to do 8 and 8, but sometimes when I lift, when I do my lighter sets, a number will just pop in my head. And so when I got to like 7, I had my eyes closed and I was really concentrating on bringing that weight in, keep my back upright. The number 12 popped in my head. So I just roll at 12. So the superset here is going to be a single leg curl on an exercise ball. And again, you're doing 4 sets, and that's going back and forth 4 times. You're not doing 4 sets in the low row and then 4 sets here. You're supersetting them together. So you take your rest period after you've done both exercises. And for this exercise, it's a lot tougher than it looks. Try to hold your right leg as close to your body as possible and really focus on squeezing your hamstring as hard as you can when you do this exercise. It's a lot more than just bringing the ball back. Keep your glutes tight, keep your core tight, and try to get that ball as close to your butt as possible. Once you're finished there, we're going to move over. We're going to finish up with a superset of abdominal exercises. You guys see here, we're going to start with the wood chopper. And for this exercise, what I want you guys to do is 15 reps per side. Really focus on, keeping your arms straight and swinging that cable across your body all the way back, all the way forward. Keep that core nice and tight. And as soon as you finish 15 repetitions on one side, you're going to go to the other side, and you're going to perform 15 repetitions as well. And then as soon as you're done that, you're going to get right over to the pull-up bars. You're going to jump up, and you're going to do hanging knee raises. Now, this exercise can be a pain in the butt, especially as your forearms start to get super tired. I mean, you guys just did all that back work, so I'm sure you've been squeezing the handles as hard as possible. Your forearms are starting to feel a bit fatigued, and to be honest, I kind of like it when my forearms are fatigued when I do my hanging knee raises, because it forces me to have to really focus on squeezing those handles as hard as possible and maintaining my proper form on the exercise by having to squeeze my core and really bring my knees up. And you'll notice that with each repetition too, I'm trying to push my feet down, flex my abs, and then bring my knees up as high as possible. So it's much more than just a swing. Alright guys, workout's over. Remember, this is a really high volume workout. I started with the deadlifts. If you don't want to do the deficit deadlifts, you want to go right into the back and leg workout, back and hamstring workout, that's totally fine. But it was a good workout. If you guys have any questions, be sure to leave a comment in the comment section below. For more great tips, exercises, routines, and meal plans, be sure to join us on muscularstrength.com. What's your maximum output?